بسم الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purifies our intentions and accepts from us this effort to congregate on this beautiful and blessed Friday evening. However frigid it may be outside, alhamdulillah, it is warm and cozy in here, inshallah. And as Muslimin, we believe that we cannot see malaika, but they are amongst us. And every circle of knowledge and every circle of remembrance, the space becomes filled with malaika. It's like a beam of light that comes out into the sky, and honeys come, like with honey and bees, they come and congregate around it and slowly take in and gradually more and more increase around that majlis. So alhamdulillah, we like to believe that there are angels around us making dua for every single person who is here. So may Allah Ta'ala protect us and always surround us with the beautiful creation of those angels, the malaika. Ameen. Tonight's discussion is on the concept of modesty. And this, to be fair, is a very large discussion. It's actually very broad. And we're taking a brief break from our reflections on rujula, or masculinity in Islam, to discuss a matter that I believe is going to become ever more relevant as we progress throughout the 2023 year. The reason for that being is because we see the rise of social media platforms that are brand new. And for the first time ever, a social media platform that isn't American, right? We have TikTok now, which is a Chinese application. And so there are a lot of other intentions behind how we, how people in the tech field begin to create products for individuals, such as for regular everyday users. There are two books that came at a recommendation for me to read, and we covered them in book clubs as well, which are Hooked and Unhooked. These are two books. If you have the opportunity to read a book, two books. One is called Hooked and the other one is called Unhooked. But I'm warning you, this is very boring for someone unless if they are involved in the technology field and they enjoy discussing and understanding how technology works. So if you are in any way involved in the tech field, either designing or building or whatever it may be, these are great, two amazing books to be interested in. The first book is called Hooked, and it's one that a lot of Silicon Valley executives and these people, these innovators that you see on television and online, they took for inspiration, because the book was essentially a playbook on how to create a mobile application or technology that will immediately increase user engagement. In other words, get you hooked on it, get you addicted to it. As we enter into the larger field now with the introduction of artificial intelligence, and now with this push of the metaverse and virtual reality, people in the technology industry are beginning to question ethics and morality. And they're beginning to question if whether or not these technologies that are being developed, however rapidly they're being developed, are truly meant to help humanity move forward or backwards. I'll give you an example. Mark Zuckerberg, when creating virtual reality and pushing it forth in Meta and Facebook, and making all of those kinds of platforms that they used, such as they took Oculus and they reprogrammed it. Essentially, you look crazy, but you put on these goggles on your face and you have like a controller, And you can live in a world that is not currently in this world. You can go online and you have your own, like everything is like 3D. And it feels like as if you're actually there. People, you see funny videos online all of the time of like scary games and people trying to scare each other or older people putting these on and immediately becoming freaked out because they don't know what they see. But when asked in an interview, Mark Zuckerberg even explained himself and he said the goal of this technology is to make it so dazzling, so unbelievable, and what you see that you never want to take this device off of your face. And so it begins to beg the question, how are we to begin to interact with technology that's ever developed, or that's developed essentially to consistently keep you on it no matter what? You can never get off of it. When you are off of this technology, you feel terrible. I will give you an example, and forgive me for using this kind of example, but it must be said, because one of the principles is لا حياء في بيان أمور الدين. There is no lack of modesty when explaining the rulings of our faith. Meaning, don't be embarrassed when we're trying to explain the rules of our faith. But there are individuals, for example, who will use their telephone in the restroom and will open up applications and will sit and scroll on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And instead of actually leaving the restroom, using it for restroom purposes, and leaving, they'll spend an extra amount of time in there. Or they might even be communicating. People get grossed out if somebody calls them on the phone. This is disgusting. If somebody calls you on the phone and they're on the can, this is absolutely disgusting. But what's more incredible is most people, this is why you should never touch someone else's phone. Out of principle, it's very gross. Because they take it into places that aren't really meant to be taken into. You don't know who it is. It's nothing out of the ordinary to see that. People put their phones everywhere. It's even worse than a television remote. And so the scary part becomes, how long are we becoming hooked to these things? In today's khutbah, I relate a story of Majnoon Layla. It's an old Arabic proverb. It's a collection of stories. Okay, and these collection of stories are meant to invoke ideas or understandings about spirituality and a connection to Allah. The author uses it. He provides like a metaphor, and he creates a character who's deeply in love with this woman named Layla. Like so head over heels, he's obsessed with her. In one particular night, he sees Layla's dog in the street. And so he begins to follow this dog. The dog is weaving through the streets, alleyway after alleyway, and he's just hunched over running after this dog, trying to catch up to it. He doesn't even notice that he runs through a whole right past an entire congregation praying Fard Salah. He doesn't even realize they're praying Salah. He totally forgets about time of prayer, that he's in Islam, that he's even a Muslim. All he can see is this dog. He runs after this dog and it keeps going until it gets to Layla's house. It gets to Layla's house, runs right under the fence and goes into the house. And he spends a little bit extra time just looking over, hoping to catch a glimpse of his beloved Layla. He doesn't see her. And so, sadly, he follows his footsteps back home. Because it's dark, remember, he can't see. He doesn't know where he came from, so he was looking at his footsteps. He comes back and the Jama'ah is still there. They had wrapped up prayer. They're laughing at him. They're like, you crazy person. You are a buffoon. Did you not see us praying here? Did you not see us worshiping Allah? And he says to them, I apologize. I was so obsessed with this dog, with Layla's dog, I had completely forgotten about you all. But isn't it interesting that I did not see you all, yet you were communicating with Allah and you saw me? Life is about perspective, everyone. Dunya is about perspective. We are resurrected, the Prophet ﷺ taught us, we are resurrected with whom we love. We are resurrected with whom we put ourselves with. Further, he says, if you, the individual is upon the faith of his friends. The individual is upon the faith of his friends. I can't think of a more valuable lesson for youth than this hadith. The servant of Allah, the individual, is upon the faith of his friends. However level of iman that they're at, if they're the kinds of people who are regular masjid goers, and this is what you see. When we have youth groups, we don't just call one kid, we call the whole group. The kid comes with everybody, comes with the whole squad. YM is like this. That's the whole idea behind YM. They come together as a group wherever they go. The concept or understanding of how community works is through these ahadith that we see from the Prophet ﷺ explaining to us how exactly we're supposed to be relating to people. So now let's think a little bit about how technology is created. And let's connect it to Majnoon here. And let's further connect it to what? Let's further connect it to that hadith about friendship. Because the purpose of social networking is networking itself. It is a broad web or a connection between thousands and millions of people. If you would like to, you can spend an entire day communicating with people wherever they are in the world. That's the idea behind Facebook and behind Instagram, behind TikTok. But what had started off as a way for people to communicate gradually became an industry for content creation. Now you have children who are thinking about, and businesses. You can't even open a business without thinking, I need to have Facebook, Instagram, because this is how people are communicating online and thinking. Even news outlets, newspapers, they were done. As soon as the internet came along, they became weakened with online articles. As soon as Instagram and Facebook came along, and you can put posts out and tweet news on live, it's over. They had to completely change their game plan. They had to completely change their perspective. They started putting their news online and acting just as everybody else. One such incident was incredible. There was an individual and an American journalist during the World Cup who had passed away unexpectedly. Western media, what they had done was they had simply just put that this individual had passed away without any description of what was going on. Within minutes, people had started commenting about issues related to the Qatari government and so on and so forth, and this was planned, and this was this, and this was that. A day or two later, it was announced that he was sick and that he had fallen ill, and that was the cause of his death. But the whole entire space of media had created such a negative sentiment towards this area of the world that people already had their bias. Social media creates for an instant reaction, and it requires that. It's created for that. It's created to keep people hooked. The problem now is that as Muslimin, we're using these platforms more and more. Scholars are on it, communities are on it, and it's a way for us to be able to communicate at large. I mean, even that individual who had parked his car, that coward, who had parked his car in front of the masjid and tried to show, I don't even know what kind of messaging that was. That made no sense, honestly. I have seen worse Islamophobic comments in my lifetime. Believe me, I mean, for anybody who was around, post 9/11, this wasn't even scary. This was like, okay, you parked the truck. Congratulations. He didn't even park it in the parking lot. He parked it on the street. So these kinds of comments, and the point of the matter is when we see these issues happen to us regularly, we have to begin to understand how do we utilize this technology for our benefit and prevent it from destroying us or deterring us from our path to Allah Ta'ala. This is a very long-term discussion because technology changes every day and there are many facets to it. It's a very large industry. But overall, what I want to talk about today is a starting point for us, and it's a compass. Because when tech industry professionals, generally speaking, are in the room with these people, everybody's coming together and they're saying, we're going to create a social media app, or we're going to create an artificial intelligence that can educate people and do incredible things. Like ChatGPT, I don't know if you guys have heard of this. This recently was released. It's amazing. If I was a student and ChatGPT was out, I would never study. All I would do is just ask this, don't do this, kids, but you could theoretically ask the AI any question, it'll write you a whole essay, copy paste, you have an A+. It's incredible what it does. I couldn't believe my eyes. You can even have it write article, like if you are a small business owner and you have like an online website and you want to do social media, you just go onto ChatGPT and ask it and put in a prompt and it'll create a whole campaign for you. Someone even had it write out an entire Seinfeld episode. People's careers are at risk here. It truly is. If a robot or a machine can create a lot of this stuff out of nowhere. The scarier part is about a lot of this artificial intelligence is that while human beings have created it, and it shows the limitation of man, they don't understand how it works. They actually do not understand how it works. They don't know how it gets from I put in a prompt for it to do something to what it writes out for you. It's still unclear. When people are in the room creating these technologies, they're not roping in an imam. They're not bringing in a minister or a priest. They're not bringing in a rabbi. They're not bringing in anybody from any Buddhist monk, nothing like that. They're just together thinking about what's right or what's wrong. Even more, what they do is they roll out these technologies. Why do you think these technologies, for example, ChatGPT, which is an AI that answers questions and writes things out. You put in a prompt that writes it out for you. Any idea. You type in, create a movie for me. It'll just create a movie for you. All the lines, scripts, everything for you. It's incredible. It can even build a website if you wanted to. When they're getting together, they're thinking, we are going to roll ChatGPT, this technology out, it's going to be free. We're going to test it on the open public. We're not even going to do anything to it. We're not going to set limitations. We're not going to cap it. We're just going to unleash it. When we unleash it, we're going to see what humans do about it. I want you to take a moment and think about the world at large and think about the morality of man at the moment. Think about all of the messed up things that we do in the world. And alhamdulillah, there are people who do good things as well. Unfortunately, we can't guarantee that it's always good people who are using these kinds of technologies. Because if someone has shaitan who gives them waswasa, or they themselves are a shaitan, they can manipulate these kinds of technologies for the worse. And they can create a terrible future for people, especially for children. This is a very scary point in time. We are accelerating very quickly. And unfortunately, there's very little being done in terms of the Islamic space on the ethics of technology. Very little is being done. And what's crazy is, if you look around this room, by a show of hands, who is in the technology field? Just raise your hand. This could be in marketing or software engineering. Look at that. If you go at the Ummah at large, go to Hajj, you're going to see millions of Muslims who are software engineers, who are tech salesmen, who are tech executives, who are involved in the corporate world, who are within the space all of the time, who are in fact, might even be in those meetings themselves. But the issue is it's difficult to advocate for things. Or they just might not feel like it's worth it. It's pretty tough. It's not an easy thing to just step in and just say, hey, this is haram. They're going to say it's haram. What's haram? They might not even agree with you, and so this is the most challenging thing. What's going to be interesting is as these new technologies emerge, how exactly they become implemented in countries such as Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Egypt, Morocco, when they start entering into majority Muslim countries that are very advanced in their technology already. They have already created these infrastructures or may even have the developers or teams in their countries themselves. I mean, very recently, we've even seen an example where Saudi, and this is no criticism towards them, but it's merely a matter of like observation. For that previous Hajj during COVID, they had used a company that had, what is their name? Hindutva ties. They had unfortunate ties. right? And they were even using the colors of their party and all of these matters. And to be honest with you, it was probably a decision made by 3 or 4 people in a business room, and they didn't think much to it. They were just like, we just need an app right now, and what company can do it? They weren't thinking twice about what was going on. They were just trying to have speed. And this is the scary part. We care so much about dunya-related goals, and we have no time to think about how that is going to affect the akhirah and also the future of our children. Because the people who consume this on the regular are our children. They're the ones who are using this tech. They're the ones who understand it the best. They're the ones it's engineered for, because they're going to grow and develop with it. And so tonight, we're going to begin defining what modesty is in Islam. And if you go around the room and you ask person to person, you're going to hear, what does Hayaa mean? They'll tell you it means to be shy, it means to be respectful, it means to be humble, it means to be modest, it means to be a good person. And all of these themes are central to what Hayaa is. But it is no coincidence that it has a similar root, it has the same root rather, as Hayaa. And Hayaa in Arabic means life, because the Arabs believed that one could not even be alive without having this kind of character and trait. They couldn't have modesty in them. If they're not alive, they can't have modesty. Modesty is a matter that is part of your natural disposition. It's what tells you, for example, it's what tells you when someone removes their clothing for you to look away. It's what tells you, for example, when someone uses the bathroom that you close the door. It's what tells you when someone is having surgery or a matter such as that you don't necessarily barge into the room and watch it, but rather you ask for that permission. It's what told the Christians, for example, to have rules about medical. If you go into a hospital and you have surgery, it's protected behind laws. You can't just access that information. You have to get permission from the government, from that individual. You have to go through a whole process in order to get information about whatever the person's surgery was and stuff like that, or what their illness is. Your workplace can never ask you why you're sick. They can't. If you take a sick day, taking a sick day, you don't have to give a reason. They don't need to know. We tell them because we feel bad, but they can't know, because this is protected. It's part of their concept of Hayaa. Just interesting. But for us in Islam, we want to have a healthy form of Hayaa, a healthy form of shame and modesty. And believe me, this is significant, because when we begin to interact online, what you're going to see is that the way social media is created, it begins to start to tear down what modesty is. When Facebook was first brought out to the world, it was very innocent. People were able to connect, and people were just learning about the internet. So they posted about everything. They posted what they had for their meal today, what they wore today, what they went through, and all of these matters. As the internet began to grow and people began to come in, you started to see creepy people and healthy people and crazy people and normal people, and things just got mixed up. And so there has begun an idea behind the use of technology where people started to slow down in what they shared publicly. Unfortunately, today, what we see with Gen Z is a little bit different. They're encouraged from day one. It's really tough, because when you go online and you see a lot of what they're called is Muslim influencers. And a lot of their videos are great in concept, and a lot of their videos are just garbage. It's there, it's not haram, but it's really bad for you, if you get what I mean. The more you consume, the worse it gets. It's like, oh, this is too much. And that's essentially what it's supposed to be. Because oftentimes you'll get like a nice catchy nasheed in the background, and then he'll come and he'll go on like, just wudu, and unnecessary. Like, there's no benefit to it. Or he'll be working out in the gym, and then you're like, okay, and that's it. That's all he's doing. There's nothing else. But this is because he makes money off of those videos. You watching this for 10, 15 minutes a day, you give all these people $5, $20, $30. They're making money left and right. It's a fantastic business idea. Just put up nonsense and you'll get paid for it. It's fantastic. If it's used correctly, you have an unlimited reach for da'wah. If it's used incorrectly, you just have garbage. And that's unfortunately where we're at the moment. It's very difficult to put a finger on what the problems are because there are just so many. And if I start to we haven't even spoken about the issues regarding women and girls, and the beauty blogs, and the beauty this and beauty that, and the different marketing schemes that are meant to bring Muslim girls out of the rules of modesty and into what the Western marketers in New York City on Madison Avenue want you to look like. There's a lot of problems that we have in our dunya. And these kinds of things are easily manipulated. It's not even just us. What we saw in the previous election with the matters regarding fake news, all of these things, it's harming every single individual. It's something that we really have to begin to take seriously. Limit the amount of time that people are using. I mean, even Apple, if you go into your settings, you have to turn it on, but you can see the app usage, the amount of time you've spent on your app. Some of us might not want to look at how much time we've spent on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever it is, but look at it. You're going to feel so bad because the day that you return to Allah, you can't take that time back. Do you get what I mean? You can't take that time back. You spent all of those hours, those extra minutes sitting on the toilet, flicking through TikTok or whatever it is. You wasted it. You could have gotten out, prayed, like, I don't know, go plant the flowers, things, just life. You could have benefited. You could have been with your children. You could have been out there in the world learning something. But instead, you spend about 300 hours looking through Instagram. It's embarrassing. Look, we all have this issue. This is not just one or two. Everyone in this room has been consuming social media. So it's unavoidable. And the question is not about consuming it. It's more about how do we use it in a healthy way? How do we use it in a healthy way? Because there are benefits to it. For example, if today I want to look up a famous Quran reciter, I can go on Instagram and listen to his qira'ah. There are people who teach off of Instagram. Currently, we're using a social media application. We're using YouTube. And so these are ways for us to be able to connect to people at large, to come back and learn and benefit. We can have a virtual masjid online and be able to impact people in their homes and help them and guide them and provide assistance and so on. So it's not all bad. It's more or less an issue of how we perceive what our Hayaa is and how we're going to approach the dunya with. And now becomes the second issue, which is that social media and the online presence is an indirect way to communicate with people. In many ways, it's an indirect way. It's an indirect way because you are commenting, communicating without a face. If I were to go to Brother Amjad right now, and I had some kind of beef with him, and scream at him in his face to face, I might be afraid to do that. But online, way easier. I just go, type all caps, you are wrong, period. Right? It's way easier. You're less afraid. Nobody's in front of you to do that. Additionally, for children, it affects how they communicate as well. We all begin to lose social skills. We don't understand cues. We don't understand the moment when to bring up a comment or the moment when to speak clearly. And so before, when public speaking was a matter that was seen as the Romans, they would only elect leaders if they could speak fluently and well publicly. Compare that with Trump. You have like two different contrasts. They actually did a study of the previous presidents and how they spoke. There's nothing against Trump. Like I'm not. It's not bringing politics into it, but I'm talking about just being able to speak. Social media has in many ways reduced people's capacity to even speak. The reason for that being, everything is like 15, 30 seconds. Everything is within 500, 400 characters. You need to be able to say what you have to say and as quickly and simply as possible. And that's not easy to do. That's not easy to do. And so they even compared, like they said, like Abraham Lincoln was at like a high school level. George Washington was at like a college graduate level when he spoke. And the reason why is because the president speaks to the masses. So when he speaks to the masses, they understand. Trump, when he spoke to the masses, was at I think it was like a 7th or 6th grade level of English. And that tells you exactly how we are in America today with how we're communicating and understanding language. It's affecting us. And so we come back to the indirect and direct communication, because that's how we build friendships online as well. And there are benefits to that. But I'm going to explain something else that was remarkable for me to look at in terms of what I was researching for tonight. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab had said, "Do not let your love be an obsession, nor your hate destruction." Do not let love be your obsession, nor hate your destruction. How so? He was asked. He responded by saying, when you love, what he meant was, when you love like a clingy child. You love like a clingy child. When you hate, you wish destruction for everyone. You just wish destruction for your companion. This is something that we see often online. We see these social media influencers. One day, they will provide content in however capacity, and people praise them. It's very easy to get praised. You ever think about that like button? Why did Instagram pick a heart instead of a thumbs up? There's research that's brought into this. Why does it send a notification where it says like, so-and-so liked your story, so-and-so liked your comment, so-and-so loved your comment? They didn't add the love, smile, happy face, all those emojis because they wanted people to be able, they added it because they knew that if they add that kind of feature, people will use the application more. It'll create more space for debate, for problems, for issues. If you can react more, you can create more problems or solutions. And so we see an obsession with these popular Instagram, TikTok people. They come into a room, the kids go crazy. Kids go wild. He'll come into the room, none of us will even, Mr. Beast. Does anybody know who Mr. Beast is? Look at the kids. It's all kids who know who this man is. He opened up a burger shop, mind you, a regular burger. It's just like a burger. There's nothing special about it. It's just meat. Burgers, at the end of the day, are all the same. No offense to anybody who makes burgers, but alhamdulillah, overall, they're all pretty much the same. What's crazy about this man is that he opened up one shop in that new mall in where is it? By Giant Stadium, the Dream Mall. Yeah, he opened up that shop in Dream Mall. The mall had people sleeping over, not a day before, not two, they were like 3-4 days ahead, filled. People were sleeping on the floor, and that mall is humongous. It was filled with his fans. They had never seen that many people inside of that mall ever. And that mall is gigantic. To tell you how large it is, it has an amusement park and a ski slope in it. It's huge, and an ice skating rink. It's gigantic. Yet all of these children are so used to seeing him and in love with him and fascinated by him, they just couldn't believe it. They all ran because it's an Instagram thing. It's a YouTube thing. Even the corn kid. How many of you guys know who the corn kid is? I love corn. No? Alhamdulillah, that's a good thing. Is that one kid? It was a meme. That's all it was. He was even invited. You see my point? We're not going to know these people when they come in, yet they have a direct relationship with our children. Our kids love these guys. Love them. If Mr. Beast were to come in here and give a khutbah, they wouldn't even care if he was Muslim. They would just, all the kids would be like, alhamdulillah. They would come. They would skip school. He would have more people come than Murphy himself. Murphy came here. They wouldn't even know who Murphy is. Mr. Beast comes. Everybody's praying 5 times a day, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. It would be an amazing, revolutionary thing. And in these kinds of people, they have a following. They have these passionate people who love what they do. They act clingy, like a child. Like a child. Mr. Beast comes in here. Do the children stand on the side and go, or do they come and try to grab him, hold him, take a picture with me, and throw themselves at this individual? This is how they act. They can't control their emotions. Like children. So they become overly obsessed. Everything that Mr. Beast buys, these kids buy. Everything that he acts on, they act on. He is a trendsetter for them. There is more than just this. Mr. Beast is a nice guy. He's not a bad dude. There are worse people. There are rappers and pop stars and all of these things who who openly devil worship, who openly do haram, who openly do these evil things and are part of these evil organizations, yet they have a major online presence with our youth. And it's terrible. It is crazy. And so we have to begin to take these matters seriously. And what's even crazier is if that individual becomes hated, people hate them like you have never seen before. When the doors become closed, it could be someone who just made a mistake in their life. They just made a mistake. And that's the other part about social media we never realize. When you have a public figure, people revere them so much, they cannot imagine that they are anything but what they are revering, without the realization that they are human beings. And so, like, for example, you see like these soccer players, like in the World Cup, they're human beings. When they leave the field, when they go home in their cars, they're not always smiling when fans come to them. They're usually annoyed because they're like, I have to get home. Can you imagine if you're at work, you leave your work, and 300 people are just swarmed around your car trying to take pictures of you and your children? This is insanity. And so you're not used to this kind of attention. You don't want this kind of attention. But if Messi or Ronaldo or one of these popular athletes or stars goes out and says, get away from my car, I don't want you around me anymore, I'm done, the hate will come, the doors will close, they will lose their money, their profits, everything. And so this is the problem with our social media presence. This is one of the issues that it creates. For children, they look online and they see a perfect lifestyle. They see a perfect lifestyle and they wish and hope to become an online video game streamer like Ninja. Do you guys know who Ninja is? No, right? How many of these kids know who Ninja is? Raise your hand. You see what I mean? Right? Like these kinds of individuals, they affect, they're pop stars. They affect all of these kids, they think on their page. And these are the applications that they're on. And they're part of this essential machine that's hooking you, that's making you hook to what you do. And so in that story about Majnun Layla, when he's passing by those people who are praying, and we're going to wrap up here because of the time, inshallah. We'll continue this topic next time as well. This is a good topic. There'll be more to come, inshallah, so don't worry. I promise. And this is just one chapter. We're focusing on friendships or connections here and modesty. But in that story with Majnun Layla, and he looks at these people and tells them, I was obsessed with a dog. You're supposed to be obsessed with Allah. You're supposed to be in love with Allah. You're supposed to be head over heels crazy about Allah. You're supposed to be so crazy about Allah, you don't see anything but your ibadah. How many of us actually have this kind of presence when we're praying? That's the real question. How many of us have this presence about our life? Because it's not just about prayer. You see in that example, prayer is not Allah himself. You get what I mean? The dog wasn't Layla herself. Prayer and the dog were two ways for these individuals to connect with the one who they love the most. And so for Majnun, he ran after the dog because he was in love with Layla. But for these Muslimin who were gathered to pray, they had in front of them prayer. And prayer, we believe that there is no barrier between you and Allah. It is that one opportunity for you to spill your heart and for Allah to answer all of it. And for you to believe that Allah will reject, don't ever believe this. Don't ever be in denial. Don't ever be in denial about Allah. They say dua is the essence of prayer. Dua is the essence of prayer. It's that spice that you add. It is what gives life to your salah. You want khushu'ah? Pray from your heart. Come with a need. Even if you need a full tank of gas, ask Allah for a full tank of gas. What are you waiting around for? Say, Allah bless it, increase it, add to it. And we all have reasons to make dua. Allah gives us a million reasons for it. And so this should be something that we create a habit for. In this coming year, as was stated in the khutbah, in this coming year, our goal is not to go to the gym and transform ourselves, or create an online presence and become social media influencers. Our goal is to renew our faith. Like these individuals who needed to renew their perspective on prayer, we are the same. We are no different than them. We are exactly like them. All of us, we get distracted from what our priorities are in this world. And social media is one of those distractions. It's what keeps us from falling in love with Allah. It's what keeps us from falling in love with reality. Because you know why people go on social media and follow Kim Kardashian and follow, I don't know, Brad Pitt or whatever, whoever's other celebrities. I'm sure there's like a million Bollywood celebrities that people follow as well. Messi, Ronaldo, all these people. Because they themselves, we are lacking that lifestyle. And we want to be able to connect with someone who has it all, who has that entire kind of perspective. Tell me, what talent does Kim Kardashian have? Nothing. These people online, they have zero talent. They have zero benefit to the world. Yet we give them everything. And so this is our perspective for the future, that we put benefit in our lives, benefit in what we do, and we gear that perspective, that energy, that power all to Allah Ta'ala. We push and push and push and work on falling in love with Allah Azza wa Jalla. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah ta'ala, dinner and bi'idhnillah will be served, and the brothers, inshallah, make sure that you say Assalamu alaikum to each other, greet each other, be social, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Oh, the two books, Hooked and Unhooked. Unhooked is about getting off of the applications. Oh, corn. The corn. That